Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. We're entering week 11 here for the NFL, and that means we have Thursday Night Football with the Jets going to New England. So let's get right into it. Looking into our top level team data, you have the Patriots favored on the money line with a spread of 12.5 and a total line of 43.5. I'll just switch over to the averages so we can compare them with our rankings. I hope to move this eventually so they actually match up with the numbers so you can compare the rankings with the actual averages, but I don't quite have that in place yet. So we'll just have to stick with this by looking at the rankings and the numbers in two different places for now. But looking at the Jets' rankings, you have some pretty bad rankings for their scoring. They're the worst in the league at passing. They're pretty bad with their tight ends. They are pretty good with rushing, and they're pretty good at stopping passing, but not very good at stopping the rush. With New England, you have pretty good scoring rank, really good passing rank. They're the best in the league at stopping the rush, but everything else is about average, maybe a little bit below average for the allowed passing rank. Looking at our quarterbacks for this matchup, you have Justin Fields and Drake May, with Fields getting 15.4 average fantasy points per game, and Drake May averaging 20.7. Justin Fields has had one interception this season, with one rushing fumble and one fumbled loss due to a sack. Drake May has had 5 interceptions this season, with 2 fumbles lost due to sacks. I'll move over for the averages. And then looking at their carry share, you get Justin Fields with 7.5 carries per game, which gives him 24% of the team's total carry share. And with Drake May at 6.6 average carries per game, he gets about 23.8% of the team's total carries. So you have two quarterbacks that like to run the ball quite a bit. For the running backs, you have Breece Hall and Trayvon Henderson, since Stevenson is still out. Breece Hall has averaged 14.5 fantasy points per game this season, and Trayvon Henderson has averaged 9.3. For both running backs, they both have one rushing fumble. And then with their averages, as well as the breakdowns, you have Breece Hall with a rushing carry share of 55.2% of the team's total carries. Everybody else gets a pretty small percentage other than what we saw with Fields. With Trayvon Henderson, he's at 29.2% of the team's total carry share. That's because he's been the backup to Stevenson, so he's taking that carry share over. Stevenson still holds that largest percentage, but just barely right now, so Trayvon will probably overtake him in this game. And otherwise, like we saw with Drake May at 23.8% as the third largest. Getting into the receivers, you have Donnie Mitchell because Garrett Wilson is hurt, and Stephon Diggs. Mitchell averages 2.8 fantasy points per game this season, and Diggs averages 12.3. The only turnover comes from Donnie Mitchell, so then we'll just flip over the averages and look at the team's receiving share. With Donnie Mitchell, you have basically nothing right now for the team. It's very spread out, but he's not even on the board. And over here with Stephon Diggs, he gets about 21.6% of the team's total receiving share, which is the largest of anybody else on the team, although it is also still very spread out with the Patriots over here. We'll take a look at the number 2 receivers with Arian Smith and Mac Hollins. Arian Smith averaging 1.3 fantasy points per game, Mac Hollins averaging 7.8, and then we'll just look at their averages. And Arian Smith is on the board, but just barely, with 3% of the team's total receiving share. And over here with Mac Hollins, since Kayshawn is out, he gets about 12. And over here with Mac Hollins, because Kayshawn is out, he gets 12.6% of the team's total receiving share, which looks to be about the 4th largest, and I think that's about appropriate given Stephon Diggs, Kayshawn, and Hunter Henry. Speaking of the tight ends, we have Mason Taylor and Hunter Henry. Mason Taylor has averaged almost 7 fantasy points per game this season, and Hunter Henry has averaged 9.2. There are no turnovers, so we'll go straight to their averages. And then look at their receiving share on the team, with Mason Taylor getting 15.9% of the team's total receiving share. That appears to be the second largest for the Jets. And over here with Hunter Henry, he gets 14.7% of the team's total receiving share. And I think that's about the third largest on the team. I believe this 16.8% is Kayshawn, so that's why we don't have him covered as the second largest receiver. But he may well get overtaken this game since he's out. So there's all your numbers in this game. It could be an interesting matchup with a passing rank of 7 on New England against an allowed passing rank of 7 from the Jets. So the Jets pretty good at stopping passing. New England pretty good at passing. New England's not as great at rushing, and that's where the Jets are also weaker at defending. But even though the Jets are really good at rushing, you're going against one of the best teams at stopping the rush. So you got some interesting even matchups. We'll see who kind of wins those head-to-head matchups. What concerns me the most would be the scoring rank, where the Jets are very bad at scoring for themselves, and they're really bad at preventing their opponents from scoring, where New England finds a way to score, since they're one of the top 10 teams at scoring, and they're one of the top 10 teams at preventing their opponents from scoring. So if the Jets can overcome that kind of scoring differential, they have pretty good matchups across the board, and they might have a chance at winning this game. So there you have it for the first game of Week 11. I hope that there was something interesting in there, and if so, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on what other information you want to see. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next games this week.